Have you ever walked away from a narcissist, only for them to vanish completely as if you never existed? Just yesterday, they might have seemed obsessed with you, but today, all that remains is a cold, empty silence. No explanation, no sign of concern, just total disappearance. If you've experienced this, you know the shock and confusion it brings. You wonder, do they truly not care, or is this a calculated psychological move? Have they really forgotten you? Or are they silently manipulating you to pull you back in? But don't fall for the trap. Take a step back and approach this with a stoic mindset, a perspective that helps you control your emotions, maintain your mental freedom, and refuse to be manipulated by anyone. In today's video, we're uncovering the truth behind the narcissist's silence. Why do they disappear? What are they really thinking? And most importantly, how can you avoid getting trapped in the emotional whirlwind they want you to fall into? Don't let them control your emotions. Don't let their silence make you question your worth. Stay until the end of this video, because today you won't just understand the psychology of a narcissist, you'll also learn how to deal with them in a smart, calm, and powerful way. Before we dive into the true nature of this silence, take a moment to reflect. When you walk away from a narcissist, you might expect a reaction, anger, justification, or even an attempt to pull you back, but instead, you're met with absolute silence. No explanation, no sign of regret, just a cold, empty void where you once existed in their life. This leaves you wondering, did I ever really matter to them? Or did they simply forget me? But don't let that silence fool you. This isn't forgetfulness, nor is it letting go. It's a tactic, a calculated move designed to assert power. Remember, narcissists don't love in a normal way. They don't connect with you as a person, but rather as a supply, a source of validation to feed their fragile ego. When you leave, you disrupt the control system they carefully built, and to a narcissist, that's not just a loss, it's a threat. Their silence isn't a sign of forgetting you, it's a psychological weapon. It throws you into a state of confusion, self-doubt, and questioning whether you did something wrong. It's a way for them to maintain power over you, even from a distance. But most importantly, it's their shield, a way to avoid confronting the truth. Their weakness, insecurity, and deep-seated fears they can never face. As we continue to explore why narcissists go silent when you leave, remember this: they're not silent because you don't matter. They're silent because you matter more than they're willing to admit, and they don't know how to handle that. Think about it. If someone truly didn't care about you, would they need to prove it with absolute silence? No. When a narcissist goes silent after you leave, it's not indifference. It's a psychological game, a strategy designed to make you question yourself. They haven't forgotten you, they want you to feel forgotten, and that's entirely intentional. Narcissists manipulate by creating an imbalance of power, because as long as you're still thinking about them, they still have control over you. They know that silence isn't just painful, it traps you in a cycle of overthinking. Why aren't they reacting? Did I do something wrong? Was I not important enough? But stop right there, don't fall for it. This is exactly the reaction they want from you. Their silence is not the end. It's a psychological trap. They want you to feel unsteady, out of control. They want you to come back searching for answers, because the moment you reopen that door, they regain their position of power. You cannot let that happen. The truth is, when a narcissist goes silent, they're still trying to manipulate you, even in their absence. They want you to overanalyze, to wait, to anxiously question yourself. Because as long as you're preoccupied with their silence, they still own a part of you. But here's the key to breaking free. You must learn to embrace their silence as your victory. No reaction, no seeking explanations, no giving them any power over your emotions. Because the truth? A narcissist cannot stand losing control, and when you don't react, you are the one holding the power, and that is what they fear the most. Silence as a strategy. how narcissists protect their fragile ego. People with narcissistic personality disorder project a strong, confident exterior, but deep inside, their ego is extremely fragile. They build their identity around admiration and validation from others. So when you leave, they don't just lose a relationship, they lose a piece of the identity they've carefully constructed. This sends them into a state that psychologists refer to as narcissistic injury, a psychological wound so severe that they activate extreme defense mechanisms to protect themselves, and that's exactly why they choose silence. Imagine this: a narcissist cannot tolerate the thought that you had the power to leave. Acknowledging that would mean admitting that they are not the center of your universe, that they no longer have control over you, and for them, that is unacceptable. So instead of facing the pain, they pretend you never existed. This mindset is driven by a psychological phenomenon known as denial of existence. In their internal world, if something makes them feel weak, hurt, or out of control, they simply erase it from their mind. You left? They refuse to acknowledge it. You were once important? They delete that thought immediately. They will do everything in their power to convince themselves that you never mattered in the first place. The narcissist's silence, a dangerous and sophisticated control tactic. A narcissist's silence is not just a reaction to the end of a relationship, nor is it a sign of letting go or emotional maturity. It is a calculated control tactic, a meticulously planned strategy designed to trap you in uncertainty and self-doubt. They understand a simple yet highly effective psychological truth. People fear ambiguity more than they fear painful truths. When a relationship ends with clarity, whether due to conflict, betrayal, or incompatibility, we may feel pain, but at least we know how to move forward. But when someone disappears without a word, the brain doesn't accept it easily. It spins in endless loops of unanswered questions and self-imposed theories. And this is the trap the narcissist sets to keep controlling you, even when they are no longer physically present in your life. When they go silent, they are not merely withdrawing, they are manipulating your response. They want you to feel confused, unsettled, and at fault. They want you to believe that there must be a reason for their disappearance and that it's up to you to figure it out. And in the process of searching for answers, you become trapped in the emotional whirlwind they created. You start asking yourself, what did I do wrong? Was I not good enough? How can they be this cold? Did I even matter to them at all? And in that very process, they still maintain control over you. You may have physically left them, but psychologically they still occupy your thoughts. Psychology has proven that humans have a strong need for cognitive closure, the desire to resolve ambiguity and fill in missing information. When someone suddenly vanishes without explanation, the brain automatically switches into search mode, seeking answers, and this process can continue indefinitely without closure. The narcissist withholds closure, not because they want to keep you stuck in uncertainty. Another psychological phenomenon at play here is the Zeigarnik effect, discovered by psychologist Bloomer Zeigarnik, which explains that unfinished events tend to linger in our minds much longer than completed ones. It's like hearing a song that suddenly cuts off before the chorus. Your brain keeps trying to complete the unresolved story. Narcissists exploit this exact psychological response to keep you stuck in a cycle of self-questioning. They don't disappear because they don't care. They disappear because they know that not having an answer will keep you thinking about them. Narcissists understand this well, and they use silence as a way to control you without having to say or do anything at all. A narcissist's silence is not a sign of strength. It's a cover for their deep insecurity. A narcissist doesn't choose silence because they are strong. On the contrary, they choose silence because they don't have the strength to face the reality that you left. A truly emotionally mature person can say, "I'm sad about losing you, but I accept it." But a narcissist cannot do that. They cannot acknowledge their pain because doing so would shatter the grandiose self-pitch they have carefully built. They cannot express their real emotions because that would mean putting themselves in a vulnerable position. So instead, they choose to pretend you never existed. But here's the most important thing you need to remember. Their silence is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their fear. They are not silent because they have moved on. They are silent because they cannot face themselves. And when you truly understand this, you'll realize that you don't need to seek explanations from them, nor do you need to try to understand their thoughts. You don't need validation from someone who isn't strong enough to face reality. The emotionally immature narcissist, the real reason they choose silence. A narcissist doesn't go silent because they have moved on from you. They go silent because they cannot face the reality that you have left. They are not emotionally mature enough to accept rejection or loss, and instead of confronting it in a healthy way, they choose total denial. They never learned how to process emotions like a normal person because, from a young age, they may have grown up in an environment that discouraged emotional expression, or they may have built a hardened shell to hide their inner vulnerability. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." A narcissist has never developed enough self-awareness to understand that their silence is not a sign of strength, but rather the clearest indicator of avoidance. When a relationship ends, an emotionally mature person will feel the pain, reflect on the reasons, learn from the experience, and eventually move on. But for a narcissist, pain cannot exist in their perception because they lack the tools to process it. Acknowledging their hurt would mean admitting they are not invincible, that they no longer have control over the other person, and that is unacceptable to them. So they choose silence, not as an act of letting go, but as a form of punishment. They want their silence to haunt you, to make you question yourself, to make you feel like you are the one at fault. Dr. Ramani Durvasula, a leading expert on narcissistic personality disorder, once said, "A narcissist never leaves you with acceptance. They leave in a way that ensures you will come back, and silence is their carefully crafted trap, designed to keep you stuck in a state of doubt, confusion, and searching for them, even when you were the one who walked away." But the most important thing to understand is this: they are not silent because they have forgotten you. On the contrary, they are silent because they cannot bear the reality that you did something they never thought you could. Leave their orbit. They cannot handle being the one left behind, so they create a narrative that benefits them. By ignoring you completely, they want you to believe that you were never important. But if they truly didn't care, would they need to prove it? If someone genuinely doesn't think about you, they don't need silence as a tool of manipulation. They simply move on with their life. And that is exactly what a narcissist is incapable of doing. So when they choose silence, don't see it as coldness or power. See it for what it truly is: the reaction of someone who is too emotionally immature to process their own feelings. Erich Fromm once said, "Those who are incapable of loving are also incapable of handling the pain of separation. They can only react by denial or control." Once you understand this, you will realize that you don't need answers from them, nor do you need validation about whether they ever cared. They are unable to face themselves, but you can move forward without waiting a single moment for them to break the silence. And that is what scares them the most. So, can they come back? The real reason behind their return. Don't mistake a narcissist's silence for them having completely disappeared from your life. In reality, their departure is not an ending, it's just a temporary pause in their cycle of control. When they go silent, they aren't truly forgetting about you or focusing on self-improvement. They are watching, calculating, and most importantly, waiting to see if you are still open to their return. If they sense that you are still affected by the loss, still waiting for an explanation, or still hoping for them to come back, they will reappear. Not to heal, but to reclaim their power over you. When a narcissist returns, it is never out of love, but out of a need for control. They may use sweet words, express regret, or even promise that this time things will be different. But don't be fooled. An apology is meaningless if it isn't backed by real change. And a narcissist doesn't come back to change. They come back to put you back in the position they want you in. Their silence wasn't a time for reflection or growth. It was a calculated manipulation tactic. When they abruptly left, they created an emotional void in you, confusion, pain, and a longing for answers. And when they return, they show up as if they themselves are the answer you've been waiting for. They want you to feel relief, to think, maybe they've changed, maybe they finally realize my worth. But the truth is, they don't come back because you matter to them. They come back because they can't stand losing control. Watch how they act when they return. At first, they may appear deeply remorseful, willing to do anything to prove they've changed. They might convince you they've learned their lesson, that they've grown, that this time will be different. But once they've successfully pulled you back in, once they feel they have control over your emotions again, the mask will slip, the manipulation will return, the mind games will resume, and you'll find yourself trapped in the same toxic cycle you once fought to escape. A narcissist doesn't fear losing a relationship, they fear losing control. When you were strong enough to walk away, they couldn't handle the idea that they no longer had power over you. That's why, when they return, ask yourself, are they truly changing, or are they just trying to regain control? If they were truly changing, you wouldn't have to guess. Real change doesn't need convincing. It reveals itself naturally through consistent actions over time. But if all they offer are promises, temporary guilt, and emotional tricks, then remember this: they aren't coming back for you. They're coming back because they can't stand the fact that you actually left. And that's when you must choose: let them regain control or walk away for good, without ever looking back. How can you protect yourself from a narcissist return? When a narcissist comes back after a period of silence, it's easy to get caught in the emotional whirlwind they want to create. Surprise, hope, or even doubt about your decision to leave. They will return with persuasive words, possibly regret, excuses, or simply act as if nothing ever happened. But you must remember one thing: they are not coming back because they have changed. They are coming back because they don't want to lose control. This is not a fresh start, it's a strategy. And if you are not firm, you will be pulled back into the same cycle, only to be hurt once again. So, how do you avoid the trap? By mastering yourself. When they return, the most important thing you can do is separate your emotions from reality. Do not let their words cloud what you have already experienced. If they have truly changed, you will see it in consistent actions, not temporary promises. Remember that an apology is meaningless without real change. If you have already endured manipulation, don't expect this time to be any different. They are not coming back because they suddenly value you. They are coming back because they realize they are losing a source of supply they aren't ready to give up. In this situation, you need a strong mindset, not to fight them, but to protect yourself from being dragged back into a toxic cycle. One of the most important principles to achieve this is controlling your reactions. Stay calm. Do not let emotions dictate your decisions. If they message you, you don't have to respond immediately. If they try to trigger your sympathy, remind yourself why you left. If they act sweet, ask yourself whether this is genuine change or just another tactic to pull you back into the old cycle. Philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the greatest power you can develop. When you control your reactions, you strip them of their power. No anger, no arguments, no need to prove anything to them. When you show that they no longer affect you, you reclaim all your power." One effective way to do this is to prepare yourself in advance. Anticipate the tactics they might use to lure you back, what they will say, what weaknesses they will try to exploit. When you already have answers in your mind, you won't be caught off guard or emotionally swayed. Remember, you cannot control others, but you have complete control over how you respond. And when you maintain your composure, they will quickly realize their old tricks no longer work. More importantly, view their return not as an opportunity but as a test to see whether you have truly moved on or if you are still caught in the cycle. And you don't need to prove anything to them. You only need to prove it to yourself by refusing to let them manipulate your emotions again. When you succeed in doing this, you don't just escape them. You build a stronger version of yourself, someone who is no longer easily manipulated, no longer affected by the same old games. And that is the greatest victory of all. Always remember, true freedom does not come from changing the narcissist. It comes from reclaiming control over your own emotions. You don't need validation from anyone but yourself. Move forward with confidence, with pride, and never look back at what once hurt you. You deserve a better life, and that is the greatest gift you can give yourself.